It's my pleasure to introduce a very special guest, Mr. Bill Turner. Bill is the General Manager of Electric Distribution for the Dominion Energy and is also the recipient of the CEJC's 2024 Engineer of the Year Award. Born and raised in the Winsboro, South Carolina area, he and his family now reside in Mount Pleasant. He graduated with an electrical engineering degree from Clemson University, and during 40 years of service with SCE&G, which is now Dominion Energy, he progressed from design engineer to his present position of general manager for electric distribution. Bill serves his community and profession through board membership, and a few of these include the Rotary for Mount Pleasant, the grounding committee member for the National Electrical Safety Code, Clemson University's Electrical Engineering External Board of Advocates, and many more. So it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Bill Turner. Welcome, Bill. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be with you.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Well, number one, congrats on the 2024 Engineer of the Year Award. Well deserved. It was great to see you get that presented and see your family in the audience with you. It was a good night.
It was just a good event, good networking event, and it's good to be around all the folks that were in there. We certainly enjoyed it. Had some family members there. It was a good evening.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll just jump right into the questions here. You've definitely had an illustrious career based on your resume, which people will see in the welcome video. But during that time, you know, with the power company, what has been your favorite job there in that span of the 40 years?
Well, I've had a number of jobs that I'm very thankful for. I think the number one thing that I really enjoy is our operations group. And it's I think the challenge for me is you're presented with problems that just sometimes seem to come out of nowhere. Some you expect, but some you don't expect. And I think it's the challenge of just being able to jump in there, generate options, and have discussions. Sometimes it has to be very quick or quickly, and they have to happen, within sometimes minutes, sometimes hours. But usually the problem dictates the amount of time that you have to fix it or to generate solutions. And again, it could be minutes or it could be days or years sometimes that you have to work on these problems. But I think that's the key for me. That's the thing that I enjoy most is working on problems and more importantly solving them.
Yeah, awesome. One of my favorite jobs, I was an operations manager at DuPont up in Bushy Park for one of their plants, and I really liked it. It was very very challenging. Like you said, you have to think on your feet because you never know minute by minute what's gonna with a 24/7 operation. You have no idea what's gonna happen.
Right.
How did you end up in that job? Was that something you'd applied for, or was it kind of sprung on you? What was how did you?
I think everybody's got a story, right, about how they got into the position that they're in. And I kind of knew that I wanted to be involved in some form of operations from an early age. I remember seeing some crews near my home when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and seeing them work on a problem with a lot of bucket trucks and line trucks, and people surrounding it and fixing it. And that just stuck with me. And so I knew that was something that I wanted to be involved in. Didn't start that way when I first began work with SCE&G. I was in more of an engineering role, and these positions just sometimes very quickly come about. And so it's you just have to express interest to the right person or people, and kind of toss that idea out there. And then usually they remember that, and they'll try to point you toward, to the spot that you're trying to get to.
Very cool. What was one of the better decisions you made early on in your career that kind of helped you get to the point where when something came up, you were kind of first top of mind for that position?
Yeah, and I think maybe two things here. I think it is about networking and just making sure you get your ideas out there, and you don't have to be too forceful with that. Sometimes you just kind of you lob it up, and it's not something that has to happen right now, but it's something that potentially has to be thought about and maybe thrown into a succession plan, that sort of thing. So it's just having conversations with others, and not trying to force that too much. But when the opportunity comes up, and just like the meeting, CEJC meeting that we were at, I mean that's a great networking opportunity right there
Yeah.
for a lot of people, right? Not only for folks that are in the workplace right now, but also for students, for example. And so, at SCENG and at Dominion, we work with a lot of students. I've been on the phone this past week talking with, probably upwards of 10 of them, and trying to figure out, where they're going to end up, because we've got various positions here. Some are, almost full time in the office, and some are almost full time out in the field. And
Mm.
so we need to get the right person moving to the right location.
Yeah.
We try to do that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and then we may need to make adjustments after that. But it's all about, I believe, having good discussions
Mm.
with folks that you work for. Sometimes in your chain of command, sometimes not in your chain of command, and just making them aware, of what you're thinking about, and then seeing, what kind of where that leads.
Yeah.
One other decision I'll tell you about quickly here is, and I think this is a situation where you need to trust your instincts. So I had another job opportunity outside of South Carolina when I graduated from Clemson,
Mm.
and I was thinking seriously about accepting that offer. And something just told me as we got closer, to decision time, that wasn't the right thing for me. And it wasn't anything that was just solid in my mind that said don't do it. It was just an instinct,
Mm.
and it said, yeah, maybe that's not the right move for you. Why don't you just stay close to home? And so that was the best decision for me. So that's what I would tell others is trust your instincts. Only
Yeah.
and then if something doesn't work out, you more than likely you've got options somewhere else, and you can change that, right? You got
Yeah.
time, and you got the ability to make that happen.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Yeah, on paper there can be jobs that look amazing. It'd be like it looks
Right.
like a no-brainer, but there's sometimes just that gut feeling, or that little voice in the back of your head, that you usually shouldn't ignore. That the unconscious mind, it's
Right.
conscious. So it's really it's hard to quantify it, but it's constantly working. So it sometimes it can see the solution before you realize it, and so it's
Yeah.
very powerful.
It just seems like it's something back there. It's not necessarily nagging, but it's
Yeah,
just kind of hanging around.
right.
And you think about it when you get a few minutes or seconds, or
Yeah,
a little bit of time to kind of just chill out a little bit, and think about things that'll happen in the future. We try to do that also with through another avenue here with co-op students and
mm,
interns, and it kind of goes along the lines of try before you buy.
mm, yep,
And really this goes both ways, right? From an employer standpoint and also from an employee standpoint. But and we try to move students around, because in many cases they're with us for multiple semesters or maybe summer sessions,
hmm,
and they get comfortable in a particular area, right? So they know the people that they're working with. They know the building location, for example, they go into. They know where they can go get lunch, right? Food, all those things. They get comfortable
yeah,
in their surroundings. And what I have to do sometimes is kind of pull them up by the roots and put them somewhere else and let them experience something different. And sometimes that experience is negative, but when they move somewhere else, sometimes it's positive. But they learn when they are doing that, and they learn what they like and what they don't like,
mm,
and that helps guide the decision as to where we would place them, in some permanent position once they graduate. So it's not easy for me to do that, because it usually means there's some, you know, maybe a minor confrontation that you have to, have
yeah,
with that
yeah,
particular student, and kind of, point them in that direction, and then remind them that we're only talking about months here. maybe 3 or 4 months of their
Right.
entire life. And so it's a way to just experience different things. And some students absolutely embrace that, and
Mm.
some just go kicking and screaming. That's just the way it is. And so we
Yeah.
we go from one extreme to the other. So it's
No
it's it's
doubt.
usually fun just to watch that happen. As we
Yeah.
try to guide them in the right direction.
Yeah, tangential to that line of thought, if you could go back in time to when you were that age, was there any particular advice you would have given yourself during that time?
I think I think it's just a willingness to learn, a willingness to be open to other things, and I in my case, I think I lean toward being an introvert more than an extrovert,
Hmm.
and so you have to get over that. I think some of that fear sometimes, of
Yeah.
approaching someone else and maybe talking to someone else and gathering opinions, because that really can point you in a maybe a different direction, maybe in the right direction for you. And so that's what I have learned over time. And it does kind of a good comparison to that is public speaking.
Hmm.
And so if you have a fear of public speaking, the way you get over that fear is to do more public speaking. And
Yeah.
so
Yep.
some people just embrace that. I mean, they're all over it, right? They just absolutely love it. Some don't. And so if you have that, that pushback on, I really shouldn't be here, I shouldn't be doing that, you have to get over that.
Hmm.
And you just have to push through is what you have to do. And that gives you confidence for the
Yeah.
next time. And usually whatever it is that you're going up to speak about, talk about, you're usually the expert.
Hmm.
And the folks in the audience, yeah, maybe there's a few out there that are going to know more than you do, but for the most
Yep.
part, you're going to be the expert and have a good conversation. Basically, is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. The obstacle is the way. That's what I always think of,
Yeah.
when you
Yep.
feel that feeling of uncomfort, that's usually a good thing. It means you're growing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And some people it's very strong, and others it's not so much. And so
Yeah.
it's just a matter of how much energy and effort you have to expend in order to
Yeah.
get over that,
Exactly.
and push through and be willing to put yourself out there, and
Yep.
be humbled. So that's
Yeah.
just how it goes.
100%. In your opinion, what's the most important personality trait that someone would need, in what you've seen in your career so far, to get to a leadership position or to be successful in whatever job you encounter? What's one of the most?
I would say patience is a good trait here. And usually when you go into a situation, you have a little bit of bias, so you're kind of leaning one way or the other, depending on what the situation is. Maybe it's a complaint let's say an employee might have, and you do a little bit of investigative work, maybe on the front end, but patience and letting that information, allowing that information to come to
Mhm.
you. Um, I'll give you an example of that. So we when we have an accident that occurs at this was either SENG or Dominion Energy. It could be a vehicular accident or some type of medical injury. We usually very quickly we gather information about whatever it is that happened, and we form some opinions about exactly how things went down and what happened, and what is it that we can change in order to prevent that from happening in the future. So what we'd like to know in these cases is what's the root cause, and how do we prevent it from happening in the future, right?
Mhm.
And so we're going to sit down with everyone that was involved and gather input. So patience to allow that to happen and to get various views from others is very important. And what I have found in almost every case is there is always something new that we learn once we sit down and gather,
Mm.
really dig into the details here. There's something that we didn't know from the time the accident happened or at the time the accident happened until the time that we investigated. We just never knew. And it's just like a light bulb goes off in your head, and you're like, man, this makes complete sense now. We didn't know that originally. So when we spend 5 or 10 or 15 minutes with each person, and we do that individually with them, not in a group setting, but we interview, each person that was involved, and I promise you, there's always going to be something new that comes up. So patience and the willingness to allow that information to come out, and then that helps you formulate what you're going to do from there. So do you need to take some really some big action, right? Make some big changes to some policy or procedure, or is it just a minor tweak that you need to make? And you do that by allowing that information to flow, and do it in in an environment that where whomever it is that you're interviewing feels comfortable and feels like they can share that information with you. So allow it to happen, and exercise some patience.
Yeah, 100% agree with all of that. I think in conjunction, I think not being reactionary too in those situations is huge.
Right.
You don't want to jump stiff-legged at the wrong thing. Like you mentioned, sometimes it's a minor tweak, sometimes it's a major like policy change. And so if you jump at the first, assumption you make, you can sometimes make the situation worse. So
Right.
yeah,
And, this can apply to emotions as well,
yeah,
from a
yep,
patient's standpoint. So, and believe me, that's happened to me in the
yeah,
past. And you kind of just jump out there, and you
same.
almost immediately know that, that was not the right reaction
Yep,
to have. But just being able to control your emotions in those kind of, charged situations,
yeah,
and also being able to understand that you're going to need more information than
yeah,
what you have at the moment in order to make the right and best decision, in this particular case. So you certainly learn by doing and by making mistakes, and I think
hmm,
you have to accept that, and you have to understand that you are going to make mistakes. You're going to say the wrong thing. I think I do that on a daily basis, but I think you learn from that every single time, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so you just have to exercise that level of patience in order to
yeah.
allow that to play out.
Absolutely. That reminds me of the Teddy Roosevelt "Man in the Arena" speech. Have you heard that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah. It's
great.
good.
It's
Yep,
always, yeah, it's like you want to be the person making action, making things happen. It's never gonna be perfect, but you're out there,
right,
making
exactly.
change, which is which is always good. Switching gears just a little bit, what's one of the proudest achievements of your career to this point?
I think for me, it is being able to provide energy to our customers. In our case here, electrical energy to them in a safe and reliable manner. So, some of the things that I think about are some of the restoration efforts that we have had over the time that I have been here. Certainly, we've got a number of hurricanes that we have gone through, and winter storms, those types of things that have impacted our customers. My desire is to get the lights back on within minutes in big outages, and where we have 200, 300,000 customers out. But realistically, I know that's not going to happen. So we've got to have a methodical process in order to do that. And it's those efforts where we all come together. We know we got a common goal, and we want to, number one, we want to do it in a safe manner, and then we want to do it in a very efficient manner as well, because the lack of electrical energy really impacts our customers greatly. And in some cases, I mean, they feel threatened because their family is not safe, especially when it's cold. They can deal much better with it during the hurricane. When it's hot, you can get under a shade tree
Yeah,
and,
right.
and take care of some of that, or get in water, but in a pool. But when it's cold, then parents feel threatened for their family. So it's those type situations that I'm proudest of. One other one would be as I mentioned before, our process of bringing co-op students and interns into our organization, and helping to guide them, through this big maze that sometimes a large corporation can present to them, and just helping them make good decisions and feel good about their career, the
Mm.
job that they are currently performing, and trying to help them move to the next step. I've got several engineers that been with us for 10 to 15 years right now, and they're working to navigate. And so to just be able to give them maybe a pointer or two, to try to point them in the right direction, just gives me a
Yeah.
lot of satisfaction, a lot of job satisfaction.
Yeah. I can tell the energy is coming out as you're talking about it. That's awesome. I was a co-op student actually. So at DuPont, and that was one of the biggest opportunities in my career so far. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, huge. And, yeah, I
Well,
can't recommend it enough. It's just, if someone can get into those kind of programs, it's life changing.
yeah. I mean, it's almost like drinking from a fire hydrant. I mean,
Yeah.
you're soaking in so much, and you're talking to so many people,
Hmm.
um, and each one gives you a little bit of advice. You have to kind of you got to sort through, filter all that out, right, to see
Yeah.
what kind of what you're going to take from that. But
Yeah.
it really is a lot of information. Some students can handle it very well, and some need a little bit of help
Yeah.
later
Sure.
on to kind of digest all of that.
Definitely. Here's a bonus question. So
All right.
I just thought about this as we were talking, but you've had a 40-year career. You don't really see that much anymore. So if you had say a magic wand and you could change the industry to make it where people have more 40-year careers, yeah, how would you do that? I mean, how do you think about the difference between what you've done and job hopping every 2 years nowadays, which
Yeah.
seems more normal?
Yeah, well, I know my kids look at me like I'm crazy. I mean, they would never ever consider doing something like this. I mean, that's not in their
Mm,
DNA. And I think there are people, employees out there who want something like that. I don't know that the industry or the environment that we're in, that all of us are in right now, is moving in that direction. From
yeah.
retirement plans, cash
Right.
balance type retirement plans. Where basically they're portable. You can pick it up and move. And so the way those benefits have developed over time is just not conducive to someone staying in an industry
Yeah.
or at a particular company for this long. I think if as I think back over it, it doesn't seem like 40 years. It seems more like maybe four,
Yeah.
actually, more so than 40. But I mean, I think it's a product of you have to kind of figure out what is best for you, and what gives you job satisfaction, and what makes you wake up the next day and really want to go back, because you have unfinished business, right, to take care of. And I think it's that desire that helps keep someone at a particular company or in a particular industry.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's just how people approach work, and what they're trying to get from it.
Mm,
And
yeah. Makes sense.
I think that's the biggest part of it. I don't know that we're going back to careers of 40 years
Yeah.
at one particular company. But we've seen it. I mean, we've seen it with our the engineers that we have hired, other technical employees that we've hired. They just want something different, and sometimes they come full circle and they come back,
Mm,
or want to come back. And so we've seen it not only with technical employees, but also with craft employees, linemen, as
yeah.
well, that have left us here recently. COVID has changed a lot of things
Right.
as well, and that seems like, I mean, that really was almost like an overnight change,
Mm,
and the
definitely.
world changed really and truly
Yeah.
within about a week, is kind of the way I look at it. But
Really did.
um,
Yep.
yeah, I just don't know that we're going back to it. Um,
Right.
So, I mean, you got to find your way in the world,
Yeah.
and
Good
figure out
answer.
what
Yeah.
works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. Switching gears again, do you have any hobbies? What do you do for fun when you're not at
Yeah,
work?
well, one hobby that I have is road biking.
Oh, cool.
So that gives me a little bit of time to just kind of get out and clear the mind,
Yeah.
for several hours, and just you get some exercise in all at the same time.
Mm.
You get a little bit of wind in your face, and you can see different things and go on different
Yeah.
routes. I would say safety is is a big part of that. You gotta know where to ride and where not to ride.
Yeah. No doubt.
But that's what does it for me, is just being able to kind of get away and get away from work and things like that, and just kind of enjoy the outdoors a little bit.
Awesome.
Have a little bit of fun and exercise all at the same time. But
Yeah.
yeah, the other thing I would throw in there is drones. I do like
Oh, cool.
electronics and then aviation on top of that. So
Nice.
and then you can mix some photography in there,
Mm.
which I'm not that big on photography, but my kids are, and so I've got them into the drone world, and both of them are certified drone pilots, FAA drone pilots as well, and they just love getting the shot,
Yeah.
and so they won't fly a drone all day, but they'll fly it for about 5 or 10 minutes just to get the perfect shot, and then mix it into whatever
Yeah.
video, kind of edit that in, into what they're producing. But
It's
that's
awesome.
the other passion there.
Yeah, that's incredible technology. It's crazy to see how far that's come in the last several years too.
Yeah, and I mean, we
Insane.
really and truly can use it here at work
Mm.
as well. For patrolling, surveying,
Yep.
gathering information where we may have a safety concern, like with a dog, for
Hmm.
example, or it could be over water, marsh, that sort of thing, and we can patrol a section of line, within a couple of minutes, and not have to put someone out in some type of marsh equipment to get across, from one side to the other. So
Yeah,
great technology for that purpose as
definitely.
well.
For sure. Last question. So is there any like closing message or anything that you'd like to promote, an event or something coming up before we get off here?
I don't have any events, Swanigan.
Hmm.
I would just say, as we've talked before, as you try to determine, what your career goals are going to be and what pathway you're going to take, just trust your instincts,
Mm.
and think, spend a little bit of time to think about what you're going to do and what makes the most sense for you, either as an engineer or any other profession that you might be wanting to go into. But just trust that, and trust your ability to make good decisions moving forward. And if
Yeah.
you have doubts, if you need some reinforcement, then by all means get on make contact with someone who can help you make that decision, who may have been down this pathway in the past. And sometimes you may have to hop, from one person to another. But the power of networking is
Hmm.
is extremely good, and it can point you in the right direction. And again, engineers for the most part can be introverted,
Yeah.
and you got to get over that hump. You gotta use tools at your disposal. You either got to use social media or some other form of communication to
Mm.
try to make that happen. But you got to get over that hump in order to make contact with someone else to point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Great advice, inspiring advice. Yeah. Well, thanks, Bill, so much for your time. This was what a great conversation. And
You're very
congrats
welcome.
again on the award.
Thank you very much. Nice talking with you, Swanigan,
Yeah.
and nice meeting you. And wish you well in your career as well.
Thanks. Yeah. We'll hope to talk again soon.
Take care.